If there was one movie you could completely delete from reality, what would it be? The Fahrenheit 451 movie. Just for the irony, they've all been pretty poor representations of the book as well. That is one of my all-time favorite books, and I'm scared to watch the movie because I don't want to see the story get butchered. Oh, they butchered it alright. It was so bad. I would remove the movie The Mandela Effect because it would cause mass confusion and lead on to the topic of the Mandela Effect and people would go insane. Seriously. Had this conversation with my boyfriend right after we watched it. I told him I wouldn't be surprised if they erased this movie soon just to F with people. And if I had anything to do with it, I totally would as well. Internet comment etiquette on YouTube filmed two almost identical videos about the Mandela Effect, and at one point he re-uploaded one and deleted the old video, and it was one of my favorite things to happen. Ain't no Planet X common cause, ain't not space cause, ain't not globe earth. Cease your investigations. The Dark Tower. Stephen King fans waited years and years and years for this movie, only for a 90-minute bullshit parade that didn't scratch the surface of the story. I got one of my friends into the series, and when the first whispers of production were circulating, he called me up all excited. I was like, man, I've been down this road before. If the movie gets made, it's just going to be a piece of shit. There's too much book for a movie. I do feel like it could be given a decent treatment as a TV series, especially since the source material is finished and we don't have to worry about showrunners fucking the last 2 seasons all the way up. Totally agreeing. At least 8 season TV show is the only way to do the books any kind of justice. I never had much hope for the movie, but I tried to watch it with an open mind, thinking maybe it'll be okay in its own right. Maybe people who haven't read the series would enjoy it. But I don't think they did. It seemed to be aimed at us constant readers. But obviously we'd never be happy with it. As for newbies to the world, there was a lot of stuff in the movie that would make no sense to anyone who hadn't read the books and didn't know the context and background. A complete S show. I'd love to see a show based off of the series, but I don't think it could be done on a typical budget. Just too much weirdness going on. I think if it were to be done it would need to be animated. We could get the Roland we always wanted then. I hope Amazon releases their pilot. I'm curious how big of a bullet we dodged. Sierra Burgess is a loser. The main character that you're supposed to feel for is a catfish the entire movie and gets mad that things just never goes away because she isn't pretty. Not because she comes off thinking she is better than other people, because she knows literature or literally lies 90% of the movie. Yeah, she's a horrible entitled person and the movie was trash. They were trying to play on the whole ugly people can beautiful on the inside too. But no, this particular ugly person was also a bad person. She's not even ugly. They just dressed her up like she was grandma's couch and didn't do her hair and makeup right. Son of the Mask. That movie is so bad that even though I know for a fact that I have definitely seen it, I do not recall one single detail of it. I completely blocked it from memory. It has Jamie Kennedy. Do what you will with that information. Scream is so good that it makes me feel warmly towards him and Matthew Lillard. I'll watch anything the two are in and just think of Scream quotes whilst I watch it. Scream is so good that it makes me feel warmly towards him. I always thought he seemed like a nice dude. But after Son of the Mask was panned by critics he put out this documentary called Heckler which was supposed to be about the mindset and motivations of people who heckle comedians, but instead was just 90 minutes of him feeling sorry for himself and whining about all the bad reviews. He really came off like an insufferable douchebag. Dragon Ball Evolution. That movie is horrible. Thank you for commenting. I was beginning to wonder if nobody was going to say anything. That's because we don't talk about it. The first rule of don't talk about DBE is you do not talk about DBE. The second rule of didn't talk about DBE is you do not talk about DBE. There's two that come right to the top of my mind. 1. The live action Avatar. Land 2. Eragon. Honestly, Eragon is probably the winner in my mind. It's a 4-part book series that could have made fantastic movies. But whoever made the first movie had apparently never read the books, because they made some seriously critical errors that made a second book narratively impossible. Yeah, they should just friggin' redo that. Loads of potential. I was talking to a friend about this, and I liked her idea. She thought Eragon would be cool as a series, like how Goatee was made. The author, Christopher Paolini, has said many times on Twitter that he would love to do a television series or even any live action adaptation project again. Since Disney bought Fox and the rights to Eragon, maybe we will see something of the sorts someday. I really hope so. And if the author actually gets consulted and works on the project, it'd have immense potential. Considering how Artemis Fowl turned out, maybe not a great idea. The Dark Tower. Well, all realities. There are other worlds than these. Edit. Apparently people who didn't read the books enjoyed this movie. My advice, if you enjoyed what you saw, read the books. If you want a really amazing story that blows the film version out of the water. Dada chum dada chut Sony Pictures, what the F. Dada chum dada chit, that film's a piece of S. Artemis Fowl. There are enough issues with the film to make even a casual watcher hate it. Forget about those who read the books. They went beyond screwing up. I knew it was going to be bad as soon as I saw Artemis surfing. Dude doesn't even have the dexterity to successfully climb a ladder and you have him surfing. Just know, the coolest thing he ever did was catch a coin and these fuckers made him surf. Artemis loved Ireland. Cut to shot of a child surfing in Ireland. Ick now. Ireland. World capital of surfing. With all those super safe jagged rock cliffs where all the children's solo surfing happens. Fuck this movie. Low-key though, Ireland is known for having some big waves. Might not be known outside the surfing community, but its definition is within it. The live action Dragon Ball movie. It's just sad. Didn't know one existed. Probably for a reason. Edit. Oh god, that's bad. I started watching it and it was so bad I regret everything. Imagine Dragon Ball if Goku was a generic D-list high school movie character. This is the entire film. Also he's kinda emo and the Kamehameha is just fancy airbending. You know a movie is going to be bad when it has the same ability as the last Airbender movie. Eragon. One of the most disappointing movies of my lifetime. I've seen this answer so often I have fortunately avoiding seeing that movie. If you've read the books, don't. Just don't if you've never touched the books before. It's okay. Doesn't even matter, I don't think. I watched with a friend who hadn't read it and she had no idea what was going on most of the time. XD. That's what happens when you try to cram an entire book worth of literal years of progress, described on hundreds of pages, with several ARCs of multiple character introductions and development, with a coherent plotline spanning the entire story and dozens of smaller side stories, into one 2-hour movie. I'm incredibly offended about this because Christopher Paolini has gone to incredible lengths to invent and describe a system of magic that was cohesive, made sense, was based on real world physics, had legitimate limits to it, was very fun to read about, and was absolutely brilliant in a real world sense. If you can alter reality with magic, of course you won't cast giant fireballs to obliterate armies, because that uses up a lot of energy. You can just sever a couple of neural connections inside the brain of a man to immediately kill him. This is bloody brilliant. Absolutely refreshing. You rarely see something that isn't so over the top in the description of magic. And then the movie completely omits the entire thing and makes generic magic system that doesn't have any consequences. You don't see Eragon nearly dying after using magic for the first 2 to 3 times. You don't see him struggling to lift a small pebble. Quite an iconic scene by the way. He just up and becomes an expert mage. Also his character was completely botched. In the books, when he killed Derza it was an act of self-sacrifice. When he had his back slashed through and was bleeding on the ground, Saphira comes through the ceiling as a distraction and inspires him to do the last leap forward and stab Derza in the heart. Afterwards Eragon faints out of pain and nearly dies because of how far he pushed himself. He saved the Vardens with his act, became a Shadow Slayer, but also got crippled. In the movie he stabs Derza in the heart during an air battle and laughs in his face saying you call yourself a Dark Lord, which is so fucking out of character it pains me to even think about that. This is such an absolutely worthless sentence that has absolutely no purpose but to mock your opponent, which is something completely out of Eragon's character. He does that in the books once. After weeks of humiliation in different circumstances, he instantly gets humbled, regrets it afterwards, accepts his humiliation and keeps working on himself. Eragon in the books and Eragon in the movie are completely different people. The third and fourth Mummy. Let The Mummy Returns be the gold standard for sequels. Let The Mummy Returns be the gold standard for sequels. Terminator 2 has entered the chat. Aliens has entered the chat. Empire Strikes Back would like a word. The Dark Knight has something to say.